welcome to the show. I have Woody Giessmann. He is a drummer, artist, addiction specialist, and founder of Right Turn Incorporated, a nonprofit built to help musicians and artists recover from addiction. He was a founding member of The Embarrassment in Wichita and went on to drum for Warner Brothers. He's recording artists the Del Fuego, touring alongside Tom Petty, ZZ Top, and the Kinks. After hitting his own rock bottom, he got sober, got licensed, and spent over a decade running one of the most unique recovery programs in the country. Woody, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you.
So I'd like to just start with your background. I just wanted to know. So, what got you into the drums? Was that did you know that was your instrument?
My instrument was piano
Piano.
and voice.
Okay.
I played piano starting at the age of 7. My brother, Brian Gilmore Giessmann, was the drummer in the family. And unfortunately, I lost my brother when he was 19 years old to untreated substance use disorder, untreated depression, which resulted in his suicide. It was a terrible experience for me, and I've been in therapy for many, many years since then. And he always told me, he was an amazing drummer, first off. And he always, he would drag me out of bed and say, play the piano for me, and my friends. So I would do that, as a young lad. And, he always told me never touch my drums. And I was like, okay, I won't touch your drums. But I learned a lot from him about playing drums. I actually took a rudiments snare class once when I was very, very young. So after he passed away, I took his drums, and I think of it as therapy. I beat the heck out of them. I ended up leaving Kansas, leaving my group, The Embarrassment, behind, which was a very enjoyable power pop band.
So tell me what that scene was like with that. During that time, you joined that band at what age?
Oh my God, we were so young. We were all kids growing up together through school, and we finally kind of came together as a band while we were studying painting at Wichita State University. But we had always played or listened to music together, and while we studied painting. So, they were my best buddies. I'm actually writing a little bit more about this in my second book to follow up here, about the importance of having friends like that in your life. And, we refer to ourselves as the Mighty Imbos, the Embarrassment. We wrote some great, very clever pop songs, and we had quite a fan base, including, we played with the Ramones back in the late 70s. We played with John Cale from the Velvet Underground, became a fan of ours and wanted to produce us at one point. Not to mention William Burroughs. We performed with the author, William Burroughs. And he would come out and do a literary reading of one of his books. And we would run out on stage to this captive literary audience and play some pop music. So yeah, I ended up leaving the embarrassment. We split up after many years of trying to be located in Boston,
Mm.
trying to create our own music scene and our own community of painters, our own community of artists. And we succeeded, but there wasn't a whole lot there to during that time of the late '70s to support what we were trying to accomplish. Not to mention, after the loss of my brother, I began to really kind of self-medicate and became kind of desperately concealing my own personal depression and loss,
How
mourning the loss of my brother.
how far apart were you two? He was
3 years. I was three
3 years.
years younger than he.
Mm. Okay. So drugs was already part of the picture during like the embarrassment.
Well, the national average for first exposure to substances is the age of 14. And,
Mm.
you know, my story is not unique. I was one
Yeah.
of those 14-year-olds who found that pack of cigarettes, who started to drink and starting to use cannabis as well. And but I was very determined to be an artist
Mm.
and to survive. And after about a 2 week binge on specifically on bourbon, uh, I went into a very dark period where and woke up on an Amtrak train with a one-way ticket to Boston,
Mm.
where I arrived within a few days. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do was to go to the nearest bar and find myself a drink,
Mm.
which ended up being the Ratskeller, which comparable to CBGB's of New York was this underground rock club uh, where bands like The Cars and U2 and a band called The Replacements launched their career.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the police found their way to the Ratskeller and did one of their first American shows there.
Mm.
An amazing place, amazing scene in Boston, which I was aware of. And so I arrived in Boston in, I believe it was late October in the early 1980s, probably like by '83, and in search of making a life for myself.
Mm.
Uh, my painting, I was drawn towards the painters of John Singer Sargent and other classically trained painters. But I knew I could make money as a drummer.
Yeah. So how did you
So
end up in the
the Del Fuegos.
Fuegos?
Well, so that was like being in the right place at the right time. Their drummer had left the group for whatever reasons were kind
Mm.
of unknown to me at the time. And I showed up late at night at I believe it was a birthday party for a midnight birthday party for a Boston writer. I believe it was Steve Morris, who's very much well known among the music scene as a music historian. And the Del Fuegos were there, and a friend that I had run into, her name was Lily Dennison. She was managing the Del Fuegos, and she brought me in and delivered me to the band. And they said, "Well, we don't have a drummer, so can you play tonight?" And I said, "Why not? Why not?" I didn't know that the band was on the verge of signing a recording
Yeah.
contract in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
There were a lot of things I didn't know. And I was kind of naive at the time, but playing the drums was not a tall order for me. I was
Yeah.
very much excited to be able to play the drums and be a part of the Boston music scene.
Yeah.
And truthfully, as I recall, because this was many years ago, I think every drummer in town was really angry at me because here I was, this young guy from Kansas, showing up
Yeah.
and joining a group which was a much sought after um, position for any drummer in town who wanted to land a good gig.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
So what was the scene like? What stands out to you when you were touring with some of these like Petty, ZZ Top? What stands out during that time of your life?
Well, what stands out is that, it was kind of like a dream come true. We went out to Los Angeles to record our first album, which was entitled "The Longest Day," and it was a well-received record. I think I believe that Rolling Stone magazine said that we were like America's next big rock and roll band. That we had integrity, and they gave us 3.5 out of 4 stars, and so
Hmm.
that was really enjoyable. But to respond to your question, it was kind of a dream come true in that on a Friday night we were performing in Boston to our hometown fans in celebration of recording this album in Los Angeles, and we had received a call from Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top, who was had heard the record and really liked where we were coming from, and so we went from playing to 300 sweaty bodies on a Friday night to driving to Nassau Coliseum in New Jersey the next night to open up for ZZ Top.
Hmm.
So, to respond to your question, it was a dream come true. It was a series of being in the right place at the right time for me.
Hmm. How did the substance use of how did the substance use evolve on the road?
Well, being in a rock and roll band, I had full access to
Whatever.
anything I wanted. And I think the best example of this was like our next major tour was playing with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I believe we did 100 shows with them over the course of a summer, and I may be getting the story a little twisted here because it's hard to remember, but I do recall being on stage at Madison Square Garden, which was yet another dream come true.
Yeah.
And right in the middle of the show, I mean, the band was on fire. The pun intended. The Del Fuegos were on fire. We were well rehearsed. We went out on stage and we had slowly over the course of time from the ZZ Top tour to Tom Petty's tour, learned how to hold down the big stage.
Mhm.
And right in the middle of the performance at Madison Square Garden, my mind went to, man, I want to get off stage and get back to the dressing room because I just want to get high, you
Mm.
know? And so,
Mm.
I mean, there's no better way to put this, but my thinking was hijacked by my addiction.
Yeah, that's a powerful picture.
So, performing in front of a sold out crowd
Yeah.
at Madison Square Garden, you
Yeah.
would think that I would be bathing in the joy of
Yeah.
performing on one of the most famous
Mm.
stages in the world, for that matter. But all I could think of was, I've got to get off stage and go get
Yeah.
high.
Hmm. So
You know,
what was the rock bottom then for you
oh,
at that point?
yeah. So years later, I was in Los Angeles. I had just left the Del Fuegos. We went out to record our fourth album. We were in pre-production for our fourth album when we decided it was time for my departure from the band. That we all wanted to, and our addiction had gotten the better of us all.
Hmm.
And I went back to Los Angeles, and I was hitting rock bottom, and the the epitome of my rock bottom was looking in the mirror 2 days before my son Madison was turning 2 years old. And I just thought, I had lost my father to alcoholism.
Hmm.
And I just did not want to do this to him.
Hmm.
I wanted to be there and be a father that I never had, and a father that I didn't know if I could be.
Hmm.
But I credit my son Madison. I just turned. I just celebrated over the weekend my 36 years of sobriety, and
Hmm.
every year I let Madison know,
Hmm.
thank you for my sobriety, because I
Hmm.
wouldn't have it without him.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like a fear of losing your creativity without substance, or do you feel like the substance was only holding you back in every way? Does that make sense?
Well, oh, it absolutely does. And, for the past 3 decades, I've worked with people who are creative types
Mm.
that um, that look up to people like Keith Richards. You have to be an addict or an alcoholic to get out on stage and write a hit song, or countless authors who drank themselves into writing not amazing novels
Yeah.
um, that y- y- would celebrate with a cigar and a glass of brandy when they finished a book. So yes, I had that reservation that I needed substances um, to be the best I could be.
Mm.
And it was a dear friend of mine, who's a musician in Los Angeles, who approached me and said, "Woody, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. I'm worried about you. You're not as good as you can be."
Mm.
Um, and so for 35 years, I just had dinner with him the other night. He's been my dear friend and the person who I say saved my life. Took me aside and said, in a kind and loving way, um, "You're not okay. I'm not
Mm.
asking you if you're okay." I had countless people who approached me to ask me if I was okay. Max Weinberg from Bruce Springsteen's band,
Mm.
Stan Lynch from Tom Petty's band, and Tom
Mm.
Petty himself said, "Are you okay?" And I would just brush it off and say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine."
Yeah.
But Peter did not uh, settle for that rationalization,
Mm.
and learned more about my story of losing my brother to an addiction, and the I was able to tap into um, the motivation to take myself from that seemingly hopeless, helpless state of mind, and which is the time around the time that I decided to come back to Boston, Massachusetts, go back to school for my undergrad at UMass Boston,
Mm.
and continue on with Suffolk University um, uh, for master's level work, and became a licensed addiction counselor.
How long did it take you to go from that rock bottom to being sober?
Well, if I'm being completely honest with you, I first got sober with Peter in 1989. It was specifically May 4th.
Mm.
And I got a little taste of sobriety, and after 90 days, I went out and decided to celebrate my sobriety, and ended up doing a lot more research during a massive relapse until April 12th of 1990.
Mm.
And so, as we say in the 12-step recovery process, that you're powerless over drugs and alcohol or your addiction, and that your life has become unmanageable. And so I did all of that research. I found out just how quickly my life had become unmanageable.
Mm.
But I bow to my mentor, Dr. Mark Albanese, who's a board certified addictionologist, a brilliant psychiatrist from Harvard Medical School, and the author of Understanding Addiction as Self-Medication, that whole hypothesis, with Dr. Ed Kanzian.
Mm.
And what I was doing was self-medicating.
Yeah.
And I used that experience, my own personal experience, as I treat people who are in the throes of addiction.
Yeah. Why did Right Turn need to be specifically for artists and musicians? Is it because of that? Because you had that experience?
So, long story short, Dr. Ann Alonso, who was the head of the advancement of psychotherapy at Mass General Hospital, she was a psychologist,
Mm.
contacted me and asked me to meet her for lunch in Harvard Square, which I did. And she showed up and told me, I know who you are. I know what you've been doing. I know that you've gone from being this really cool musician to helping a lot of people. And so this is what you're going to do. My foundation is going to write you a check.
Mm.
You're going to open the doors and you're going to turn on the phone. You're going to find comfort in being the voice of recovery, but the face of addiction. And you're going to incorporate experiential therapies of music and art and writing, along with evidence-based approaches of DBT and cognitive behavioral therapies, motivational interviewing, all of these types of interventions that have a high success rate with treating people with a substance use disorder.
Mm.
So Right Turn was around for, like, as you said, over 20 years, 21 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wonderful. And anyone and everyone came in search of trying to find their true, authentic self. What had substance use or abuse robbed them of? Had it taken away their ability to be true to themselves? And was this a place where they had hit rock bottom and were willing to confront that and pick up experience the opportunity and the joy of starting their life over again?
Yeah.
You know?
So so you got that grant and just started Right Turn and it just went from there?
I had no choice. I was working with the Department of Public Health at the time, I had been working with Dr. Albanese prior to that when I worked
Okay.
at the hospital, Cambridge Health Alliance, Cambridge Hospital.
Mm.
Um, and I was given this assignment by
Mm.
Dr. Um, um, by the doctor, Ann Alonzo, and she said, "Get busy, do it." So I immediately
Okay.
found a location and opened the doors, and much to my surprise, the word got around, and all of a sudden I had a full room of people ready to who knew me by reputation.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was not my first rodeo. I had been around and in recovery for many years,
Yeah.
in the New England area. So I wasn't surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised to see how many people uh, found
Mm.
Right Turn this new home.
So in those earlier years, what did you get right and what did you get wrong back then?
Wow, I love that question. You know, what I feel that I got right was, and this has kind of been my mission here, that if you're nice to people, they'll come back. And if they come back, they might get better.
Mm.
But I also felt, and I'm taking the lead of Dr. Kanzian and Dr. Albanese, that my responsibility was not only to be nice to them, but to explore the underlying issue, knowing that substance use brought them through the door, but substance use might just be a symptom of a greater underlying issue that needed to be explored.
What gave you that idea, that wisdom, if you will?
I'm going to credit my mentors,
Mm.
Dr. Albanese and
Yeah.
and and Dr. Ed Kanzian, who may he rest in peace,
And experience
and
from.
firsthand experience. Well, and my firsthand experience was my dear friend Peter, who did an intervention on me back in Santa Monica, California, who
Mm.
was so nice and loving to me, non-judgmental, but he confronted me in a loving way and said, "Are you ready?" And so, getting back to your question,
Yeah.
I make myself available to help people get ready to be ready to be ready to embrace recovery as a new life,
Mm.
to put behind them the damage and the unmanageability of that was created by a substance use disorder or untreated mental health.
Mm.
And I'm just grateful that they're still alive.
Mhm.
Which kind of brings me to the medication assisted treatment conversation, John.
Yeah.
In that when I opened the doors to Right Turn years and years ago, I took a lot of ribbing from people because I began to explore medications like naltrexone, buprenorphine, Vivitrol, medications that help people in the early stages of recovery and post-acute withdrawal, address the cravings and the urges.
Mm.
And when I say I took ribbing, it was because, there were people, some of my colleagues would say, "Why are you giving people drugs?" And I said, "I'm not giving them drugs, I'm giving them medications. Drugs you can go buy in the alley or on the
Mm.
streets. These are medications, please research them." And because it improves the outcome, that someone can actually manage to sit in a chair and listen to what we are going to teach them, the psychoeducational aspect and understanding addiction and mental health as a disease.
Yeah. And what do you think in those earlier years? Was there anything like that you got wrong that you felt like was a challenge that those that was kind of I was asking like what you got right, and I love that. Do you feel like there's something that you got wrong back then?
Well, in 2016, I ended up in the hospital. I had a brain bleed,
Mm,
an aneurysm.
yeah.
And when I came out of an induced coma and learned how, and had, I was forced to learn how to walk again and operate. And I did, at the advice of Dr. Albanese, I did some neuropsych testing before I came back to work, and started working with people. One of my first thoughts coming out of this very challenging recovery episode of rehab from a brain aneurysm was that I wanted to improve access to treatment at Right Turn. And therefore, I got in network with insurance companies because people pay a fortune for insurance. They should be entitled to get the help that they need.
Mm,
Prior to that, I was calling uh, because we were a 501c3 nonprofit. I was calling on Alice Cooper and uh, Chuck Berry and Warren Haynes from the Allman Brothers to raise money so that we could provide treatment for people who deserved treatment. Uh, and
mm,
as a 501c3 nonprofit, we were able to access Music Cares, which is a fabulous assistance program as well, part of the Grammy Foundation. So what I got wrong is it kind of impacted this beautiful magical clinic by introducing insurance companies into the
mm,
mix,
mm,
and insurance companies began to dictate
mm,
how I would deliver treatment to people.
mm,
And that's painful, and I still feel that way today.
mm.
That insurance companies they want to dictate how the length of treatment for someone.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked for the Department of Mental Health, my medical director, Dr. Ken Duckworth, was an amazing psychiatrist that I worked for, who went to work for an insurance company. And when I met up with him at my clinic, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, Dr. Duckworth, I'm doing what I've always done. I'm helping people." And he said, "Well, I understand that, but as the medical director for an insurance company, uh, your job is to help people. My job is to manage their money." And I found that insurance companies would find any reason to deny being paid for the services that our clinic was providing.
Hmm. That's interesting. So, um,
So my bad,
yeah,
my mistake.
yeah, I see. Um,
My intentions were good. I wanted to
hmm.
improve access to treatment.
What went wrong operationally that led to the close?
Oh, so unfortunately, I had a reoccurrence of a medical condition surrounding my aneurysm where I had to go into the hospital and have a second surgery, a shunt replacement, where I was pretty much out of commission the entire year of 2024. And while I was away, um, I had left someone in charge of Right Turn, uh, who was not a bad person,
Yep.
but was way over her head. Um, and unfortunately, um, Right Turn as a nonprofit was most likely facing closure just based on financial issues. We had fallen into huge debt,
Mm.
and the insurance companies weren't helping us out of that debt, which they should have, but they didn't. And so, my bad. I hired the wrong person to manage the clinic, someone who had good intentions and a background in finances, but did not have clinical experience, therefore failed at the mission.
Mm.
Unfortunately, when I moved to insurances, an insurance driven program, there were people who became very angry at me who were wonderful additions to the staff at Right Turn, but were not licensed and billable people.
Mm.
So, and I don't use the term lightly. We just kind of had to Zamboni the staff and bring in licensed professionals,
Mm.
which we did,
Yeah.
um, and um, and so that we could become billable. And these damn insurance companies, they looked at our experiential, our approach to experiential therapies, including music and drum groups and art groups and art therapy, etc. And their claim was that that was not an evidence-based approach, therefore not
Yeah.
billable.
Mm. So would you have done anything differently if you started today? Like, would you not have done the insurance? Would you have been able to continue without adding the insurance companies in to try to reach more people? Were you succeeding at that time and you wanted to bring more in? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm going to try to answer your question, but the problem is I know when the phone rang, the
Mm.
person answering the phone for us was suffering because they were having to tell the person whether they were making a judgment call on whether or not we could treat this person who needed help.
Mm.
And if someone has this moment of awakening that they are coming out of this contemplative or pre-contemplative state of mind and ready for help, then that's when they need help.
Mm.
And so I felt terribly for the staff who was answering the phone and saying to some people, can you pay for treatment?
Yeah.
So my intentions, to answer your question, John, my intentions were and will always be that I'm here to help people,
Mm.
regardless. And and so no, I wouldn't change one thing.
Yeah.
Although there were a couple of people that I hired that I should not have hired because I felt that they were the right fit. And I always say, as the president of a nonprofit, when things go well, it's because of what the staff did. When things go wrong, it's all my fault. I hired the wrong person. This and for the right reasons, but it ended up just not working well at all.
Yeah.
You know, and it cost me tens of thousands of dollars, my own personal uh, money.
So, how did you measure real success in addiction recovery?
Yeah, wow, really great question. You know, um, when I first cut my teeth working at a place called Hope House in Boston, which was the oldest halfway house model in New England, the success rate was around 29 to 31% people that would complete 6 months of treatment. That's how we judge success. Around the same amount of people, 30%, would relapse and fall out of treatment. And then another 30% would either drop out or just disappear. And as we always say, the last 10% is either people who are jails, institutions, and or death. I remember one year reading the obituaries and seeing that 13 people had left the program and died, and it was just painful to me. Having lost my brother in the same way, it was painful to me. How did I judge success? Well, I'm going to go back to Dr. Kanzian in one of the last papers that he wrote, that he sent to me before he passed away. And it said, if someone shows up, that's success. If they continue to show up, that's success. And if they get into evidence-based practices of therapy or medication-assisted treatment or good old school 12-step recovery, more doesn't mean better, and less doesn't mean that you don't have it. The basic premise is keep showing up. And if you keep coming back, it goes back to my earlier statement, you might get better. You know?
Yeah. And I'm sure insurance companies don't go off of that.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And in fact,
it makes sense though. For somebody who's struggling with addiction, like that matters a lot.
The pessimistic side of me thinks, oh my God, they'll pay for, 28 days or 30 days of treatment for someone, and then they cut them off. And we all know that it takes a lot longer for the brain to recover from a substance use disorder and or mental health issue. That we're going to see a very much improved outcome if they have 12 months of continuous recovery without any mind-altering, mood-altering substances, stabilizing on medications, getting up to a therapeutic level, and remaining engaged. At 6 months, the outcomes look pretty darn good. 12 months is much, much better.
What's the most important thing you would tell somebody starting a nonprofit?
Find your passion. Well, you see, I just started a nonprofit. It's called Rock Bottom. And it's a theatrical performance, which, truthfully, John, I never thought I would be put in the position of running a nonprofit again, but here I am, working with my dear friend Simon Kirk, the drummer, one of the founding members of the band Bad Company, who is an amazing multi-instrumentalist and songwriter. And also Tony V, a Boston legendary comedian and very gifted writer. And the three of us came together and wrote a Shakespearean-like love story, tragedy, and comedy called Rock Bottom, about two people who fall in love in the throes of addiction. And when I came out of the hospital in 2024, and we had been working on this for a number of years, since the end of the pandemic, for that matter, the notion was that we were going to establish a 501c3 charitable nonprofit and that I was going to be the president of this nonprofit. So to respond to your question, John, find your passion. If you are a passionate person and you want to establish a nonprofit, first off, there's a lot of work to be done. You need to roll up your sleeves, especially during the current environment. You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. But you need to find a mission that expresses your passion for whatever it is that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I find some of the bigger nonprofits, they seem to have that passion across that board. What would you tell an artist who fears that sobriety would kill their creativity?
Such a good question. I love that. And the fact of the matter is I would probably channel my friend Peter Case, who told me the same thing. You're not as good as what you think you are, and you're not as good as you can be. And I've worked with some pretty major musicians or artists. And, you think of Pablo Picasso, who we all know was a raging alcoholic, womanizer, amazing painter. And as a painter, I used to idolize him. And the Rolling Stones, I idolized Keith Richards for getting up there, and Ronnie Wood and Mick and my dear friend Charlie Watts. I loved him so much. They all got up there and in the throes of their addiction and set the bar pretty high for musicians to see that was the expectation, that they could get up on stage and perform high. But the problem is, and I can talk about Ronnie Wood because he's actually on my advisory board for Rock Bottom, and Ronnie Wood, who is also equally in long-term recovery. He's an amazing musician now that he's in recovery. So I look at this and I understand that smoking weed or drinking alcohol or finding some kind of chemical to enhance your performance may be enhancing your performance in your own mind, but if you were to hear what it is you were doing, you may not be as satisfied. Let me give you a quick example here. I was in the recording studio in Los Angeles with Mitchell Froome, who was an amazing producer. And we showed up to record a song one day, and I thought, wow, I've got this, man. I'm so cool. I'll just get really high and I'll go in the studio and really enjoy this. Long story short, after we recorded the track, Mitchell put his pen down and said, well, we're going to call it for the day, and we'll all come back tomorrow. And he grabbed me and took me into a private space in the recording studio and said, Woody, do me a favor. Don't get high before you show up tomorrow. And so I said, okay, Mitchell. And the next day I showed up stone sober, and I cut the track in one take, playing drums. And he was so pleased that he said, I want to play back what you did yesterday. And I just want to remind you, the tape doesn't lie. Yeah. And when I heard how I was performing when I was very, very high, and compared it to how I was performing when I was really on top of my game, it was undeniably an improvement.
Yeah.
It was like the difference between night and day.
Yeah, to show you that evidence, I guess.
The tape doesn't lie, man. I was all over the place.
After everything you've been through, the music, addiction, nonprofit, the aneurysm, where do you feel like you're being called to today now? Like, I mean, you're doing the musical.
Yeah.
That's where you're at.
Well, I feel like, and I released my book,
You're,
um, A Life of Recovery, Breaking the Chains of Addiction.
yeah.
And I really feel like, well, it's been told to me by my dear friend Ralph Jacadine, who's a professor at Berklee School of Music, and he's also my manager and a dear, dear friend of mine who's been in my life for many, many years. He said that the work that you're doing with your writing of a book, with your public display of coming out to talk about the stigma around addiction, and and doing that with music and the arts with Rock Bottom is an extension of what I've believed in my whole life, that
Mm.
recovery is possible, that treatment does work, and if you need treatment, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm.
So I feel where I am now in life is, and I'll never retire. It's not the end of my career as a musician nor a licensed counselor
Mm.
or addiction specialist. And as an interventionist, I fly around all the time. People call me and say we need an intervention. And I'm a board certified interventionist.
Mm.
Um, I've been affiliated with the Association of Intervention Specialists for many, many years.
Mm.
I'm flying to Chicago this week to go to a conference to see all of my interventionist friends. We all have the passion
Yeah.
to do what we do, to show up.
Mm.
But it's not only the passion, man, but it's a responsibility.
Mm.
You know, and I take that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah. Do you still play the drums?
I kind of feel like I've retired from playing the drums.
Yeah.
Can I play the drums? I told Simon Kirk, I don't even think of myself as a drummer anymore. He said, "Woody, cut it out, man. You're a great drummer." And I'm like, I'm a better piano player.
Mm.
And, in my personal kind of practice of self-care, meditation and mindfulness practices, there's nothing better than to sit down and play the piano,
Mm.
write a song, tap into that creative self, and which gives me a lot of hope. It's a gift. I
Mm.
was given a gift by my mother, who was a classically trained vocalist. She was an opera singer, and she passed on this gift to me and
Mhm.
my brother and my sisters. Although my sisters aren't really good musicians, they were teachers.
I didn't get the.
That's
There
for
you go.
sure. Yeah,
Well, thank you, Woody, for sharing all this.
John, thank you.
So, Woody's story is one of the rock stages, rock bottom, and rebuilding. He created something meaningful in Right Turn, learned hard lessons when it ended, and is still creating, writing, developing the musical Rock Bottom. So, thank you so much for your time and being so open today.
If anyone needs me, just go to my website, recoveryour.life.
Mm.
I'm easily reachable. And you
Okay.
can buy my book through that as well.